How we doing, YouTube? It's Silverback here again, and today we're taking my Dimir Flash deck back into ranked play. I've taken a while to try to get it somewhere where it does good against aggro decks as well as control decks, and I'm finally confident that I've gotten it there. We do good in most matchups. It's really similar to what I normally play. I'm not going to go over the deck. The deck list is on the screen if you want to look at it. And I'll talk about some of the cards as situations pop up in the games where they get to shine, or maybe I'll talk about what I'm trying to do with them. So we're not going to go into the deck list here. Again, it was on the screen. If you're interested, you can take a look at it, and if you have questions about why I'm playing some cards, why I'm not playing some others, ask them in the comments, and I'll be happy to talk about it with you. I'm just excited to take this deck into ranked play, finally, see if we can't improve our standing a little bit. I'm going to show 5 ranked games, win, lose, or draw, and then at the end we'll talk about how we did, and what matchups gave us trouble and what matchups we did good against, and we'll talk about maybe if there's anything I feel that we could do to improve the deck. One thing I'll say right off the bat, I'm playing in best of 1. I just like best of 1 better on Arena. I do enjoy best of 3 for F&Ms and stuff, but I'm going to say right off the bat that I feel the deck does better in best of 3. It really does, because we can give ourselves better game against other decks. I think outside of the cycling deck, I think most decks do better in best of 3, because again, you can make adjustments and make it so it fares better against other decks. So, but again, I don't want to ramble too much here. I'm excited to show you these ranked games. Again, let's see what our record is after 5 games, and then I'll see you in the wrap-up. Let's get to it. Alright, so anybody that knows me knows I like to play a game or two of unranked, just to warm up before I go into the ranked arena. So this is a pretty good snap keep. We got the Thieves Guild Enforcer to hopefully disrupt our opponent's plan. We got the Faerie Vandal Sea-Dasher, I like to call combo. And then we got Blacklance to kind of help protect us and our life total a little bit. And the mana to do everything we want to do outside of hardcast Sea-Dasher, but I really don't want to hardcast it. So hopefully we'll do Thieves Guild first. Could be playing mono white enchantments of some sort. Although I'd say with that prompt there, it's more likely we're playing cycling. And look at that, 2 foxes off the top. That's really good. Although we do have creatures to deal with the foxes, but anytime we don't have to deal with them at all is nice. So that was a nice mill. And to think our opponent could have cycled in response and got one of those in hand, but who knows, he might have some of the Drannith Stingers or whatever. That they usually do pretty good with. He's got a Drannith Healer, actually. So we're going to mill 2 more off the top. Decent hits overall. Keep our opponent off lands, hopefully. We're going to go ahead and start up the Faerie Vandal Sea-Dasher combo. Draw a card here. And grow the Vandal. So Slitherwisp isn't bad. And again, we got the mana to play him next turn. Assume our opponent will probably gain 2 life or so here. Go back up to 19, so we got some work to do. Or Valiant Rescuer is pretty good for him. We're not going to bother to block here. I think we can get a lot better blocks out of the Thieves Guild Enforcer, to be honest. Okay, so we could Sea-Dasher again, but we're going to hold on to that. And we're just going to draw a card here. What I need to do is get a counter spell, hopefully this turn. And we don't. Nightbonder isn't horrible, but we really need a counter spell because of that Zenith Flare. Could really devastate us. It could kill our Sea-Dasher. It could eventually kill us, although I think right now we'd probably target our Sea-Dasher with it. So let's hope he's either short on mana, which he isn't. Well, let's hope he doesn't have it. Again, we really could use a counter spell. We will trade the Enforcer for the Valiant Rescuer just to keep him from creating more and more creatures. And actually, Raking Claw is anything but a Zenith Flare. I don't mind. Would we have liked to have kept the Thieves Guild Enforcer, or at least traded it? Yes, but at least we know we're not going to see a Zenith Flare. And our opponent will probably cycle. So we're going to play Slitherwisp here. And now on to our turn. So we do got the counter spell. And we're going to leave up the mana to play the counter spell, but we might as well get the Nightbonder down now. And actually, Thieves Guild Enforcer isn't bad. So yeah, I thought about attacking with the Slitherwisp, but that Valiant Rescuer, he could have cycled. Now, if you notice, he's not getting prompted, though. So he probably didn't have a card to cycle. But he also could have just hit the auto pass, and he could have easily turned it off to screw us over there. Startling Development. This is all good. He's got 4 men up, so Zenith Flare is still possible. So we're going to go ahead and just take the damage, whatever. It's not a big deal to us right now, because we might be able to almost finish him off next turn. And we got to respect the Zenith Flare here, so we'll leave mana up. We can actually Thieves Guild Enforcer and still have counter magic up, so we'll do that. And let's see what our opponent does. And there's the Zenith Flare, so we'll counter that. Now hopefully he doesn't have another in hand, because we might need another turn to finish him. And I think we milled one. So yeah, that's 2 flares down. And then we mill the 3rd flare. So odds are we don't have to worry about Zenith Flare here. We should get in for 8. And then we can Blacklance. And maybe if we get a blue source, we could, well, no, 2 Blacklance will end the game. So kind of lucked out there with the draw. Blue source would have done it too, but we'll go ahead and finish off the cycling deck and move into our ranked games. Alright, so here we go into ranked against Decaf Gambit. I prefer my Gambits non-decaf, but whatever. It's his name. So we really would have liked an untapped black there. Definitely don't need more blue. We have some ways to draw cards. A lot of ways to draw cards, but we don't have the mana we need to do it. I'm actually going to hold back with the Thieves Guild Enforcer. Okay, Uro, so I'd like to keep him off of what he might have drew, which is Teferi, so that's not bad. Opponent's off to a fast start here. And it looks like he'll sacrifice the Fabled Passage, so maybe he's looking to escape the Uro next turn. We'll shock that for 2 to hopefully Slitherwisp next turn if we can. The opponent, he might have the mana. He could really mess our game up here. See what he does. Extinction Event. Sure, if he wants the Extinction Event to get our one creature off the board, we're fine with that. So we'll play Slitherwisp out now. And I want to get a counter spell, a Drown in the Loch, or something. So we'll go ahead and mutate. Okay, another swamp isn't what we wanted. And a Nightbonder doesn't do it either. I was hoping to draw a Drown in the Loch there or something. Eliminate kind of sucks, but whatever. And now we're flooding out like crazy, so luckily our opponent didn't have anything to do there. We're going to play the blue source. Let's see, we got 5 mana. If our opponent escapes Uro, which it looks like he's doing, we will gladly play Slitherwisp first, and we'll gladly bounce the Uro back to his hand. I know he'll gain 3 more life, but it's better to make him have to escape it again. And luckily he didn't have any lands that time. So we'll get in for 5. What we need is a counter spell, ideally. We need to start drawing into some of our counter magic here. But Cultivate is A-okay. So he could Cultivate and then Uro, and that would be best case scenario for us. And he does, so we might be able to finish the game off here. And I think we'll be in decent shape to finish him off, to be honest. And we mill the Ugin, so that's nice. And we'll just mill, and ping. And he scoops, so 1-0 so far. Off to a fantastic start. Let's check out another. Alright, so that last game showed the power of Thieves Guild Enforcer, even through an escape creature, or Uro, the card that people argue that we basically empower by playing Thieves Guild Enforcer. Didn't matter there. So this could be either Rakdos or Mono Black. We do decently against Mono Black usually. And not so hot against Rakdos, but still looking like Mono Black possibly. Thinking our opponent probably he has Blacklance there. Thought about bouncing something. I really don't want to bounce the Blacklance. We'll probably Blacklance ourselves here. And then if he wants to remove it, that just means that he won't get out a 3-mana creature, which is fine by us. And he does, so we'll take 5, unfortunately. But we also ate a removal spell out of his hand, and he's running out of cards quickly. I wish I could Heartless Act the Knight of the Ebon Legion here, but I already got the counter. I think we really need to get some of this damage off the board, unfortunately. We're not looking too hot right now. Demonic Embrace is bad for us too. So let's see, next turn we can bounce the Gutter Bones, and then we'll have to chump block, unfortunately. We'll go ahead and get some of these lands out of our way. I upped the deck to 24 lands. I always played 23 before. But I figure a flood is better than a mana screw, and I do see a lot more lands now in Arena at least. Yeah, we're going to have to chump block here. We don't have a choice, really. Luckily, his other card isn't removal. So he'll probably Gutter Bones. And another Demonic Embrace. So, it's, to be honest, it's not looking really good. We usually have a really good game against Mono Black, but here we'll probably have to chump block and then we'll kill the Gutter Bones. If he embraces on the Knight of the Ebon Legion, then that's probably game. So making sure it tapped right. We'll get the Nightbonder down. And we'll get the Brazen Bower down and say goodbye to both. We're going to need something. I think the only thing that'll get us out of this is a Lochmere, to be honest. And he pumps for some reason. Not completely sure what the pump was for. Blacklance is really good here. That might help us to stabilize. So hopefully he has nothing. Hopefully he won't Demonic Embrace. We could use a counter too. So we'll Blacklance. God, hopefully he's holding nothing but lands. Because if we could Sea-Dasher and get in, then that could help us get back into the game. Spawn of Mayhem is really bad for us here. And looking back, we probably should have held on to the Sea-Dasher. In case we drew the Slitherwisp, we could have drawn one card deeper. But there's not much we can do here. We can hope for a bounce spell. Yeah, whatever. Plays the Eliminate. And he'll probably see what else he does. Yep, Demonic Embrace onto yep, that's game right here. I mean, drew the counter way too late, so Mono Black gets a win over us. We usually do really well against him, but just not this game. Probably should have played the Sea-Dasher out after Slitherwisp, and maybe we could have held on there. But let's move on to the next one. Alright, so we're 2-1. Or actually 1-1. The cycling doesn't count, so we're 1-1 in ranked play here. So we normally have a pretty good game against Mono Black, so that's really disheartening. But we'll move on here. We'll keep the counter on top. Opponent plays, okay, Dreadhorde Arcanist, so we could bounce him off of any of our stuff here. We could Faerie Vandal and get that going. We could Nightbonder. He'll Spirit Dragon, so if he doesn't have a... Well, he has an Opt. So I guess what we'll do here is Nightbonder and bounce the Dreadhorde off of it. This could be another game where we're just a bit too slow for our opponent here. Swings in. He'll get to Opt again. So let's play the Nightbonder. Like I said, we'll bounce the 1-3 off of it. Opponent already pinged himself down to 16 here, so we are technically ahead on life. If we can Slitherwisp, I think we'll do that first. Otherwise, we'll counter if he's playing something major. We'll just see what the opponent has. Again, not a great start for us. Okay. So creatures he has gets trample. And opponent thinking. So again, we might have to counter. Okay, plays a tap land. And another Sprite Dragon. So, okay, this is good for us to at least get the Dread Horde off the battlefield. I mean, we're going to take a ton, but we need to get the pings rolling here. And we can always get 2 chumpers down. So what we can do is play 1 Faerie Vandal now. And leave up the counter spell and get in for 5 ourselves. And then with any luck, maybe we can block, either double block or block 1. And then get in for 5 and maybe even ping them for 5. That'd be 1, 2, 3, 5. Yeah, we might be able to pull this out here. The opponent's hesitation here tells me that he might not have a whole lot to do. Maybe he's in a flood. I don't know. But again, we'll chump block the 5/5. We'll take 2. We might be able to win this if he... see what he does. Okay. He's really thinking hard. I don't know. Chance for Glory. I'm not familiar with this card. Indestructible. Take an extra turn. Okay, so we gotta counter that. If he has a counter spell, he won. I would have liked to have gotten the other Slitherwisp down, but we couldn't let him take another turn. And he'll Stormwing Entity. Again, I think a Slitherwisp. Let's see. We can't get in for 5 anymore, so scratch that. But we could probably... Things aren't looking so good. I'm not sure how we survive here. Let's see, maybe our opponent will be cocky and not block. No, he blocks a 2/2. He doesn't have any reason not to. Okay. So... down to 6. We lost our Cunning Nightbonder. This might be it, guys. If he... our only out is if he attacks with all and doesn't pump anything. Which I imagine he'll pump here, but we'll still Faerie Vandal. And really just flooding out horribly here. So I imagine he'll play something at instant speed here and win. Or he must have like a shock or something in hand. It sucks to go our turn. We could win here. Our opponent, with the discontinuity, so I see he didn't want to end the turn on himself, and there it is. There's the win. We did it. Oh my goodness, we did it. Wow. All right, pulled that one out right from underneath our opponent to go 2-1. Beautiful game. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, as we move into the next game here, our opponent must have had that discontinuity and like 2 lands, so he would have ended the turn on himself and he couldn't play it. Just really lucked out there. Really lucked out there. So our opponent shows green. Could be Simic. Thought about playing out the Nightbonder in case it was Simic. But nope, Scavenging Ooze for our opponent, so now we'll Nightbonder. and we'll offer the trade on our turn. Chances are he won't take it. He's got a creature in Scavenging Ooze that's going to get bigger. Opponent down to 18. Ideally, we'd get Slitherwisp down here, but we'll counter Yarvo. And we'll put a lot of good stuff in the opponent's graveyard. Drown in the Loch. So I thought about destroying the Ooze here. And I don't know that we needed to shock that in. We'll see. In case I go Slitherwisp, Faerie Vandal, I wanted to leave that option open. But chances are we'll let him pump his Ooze and then kill it. He might try to pump it to a 5/5. That would be ideal. If he doesn't, we would let it through for 2 for sure. But our goal right now is to get Slitherwisp down ASAP and play down Faerie Vandal and get rolling on that. Okay, so we're just going to counter that, believe it or not. Leaving the Ooze at 2/2 benefits us. And we could Faerie Vandal here. Be an extra damage per turn. I think I'll save it for Slitherwisp. Yeah. Because now we could potentially Slitherwisp, Faerie Vandal, and possibly get something else. Barkhide Troll is fine. Opponent gets in for okay, so we're going to Slitherwisp and then Faerie Vandal. And Sea-Dasher isn't horrible here either. So we'll Sea-Dasher on top. And Lochmere is really good, so yeah, Lochmere is really good here. We could play it out. Let's see, get our opponent. That's interesting. Okay. But we can still Lochmere here, no problem. If our opponent wants to trade Barkhide for Slitherwisp, we'll actually let him do that. Kind of tricking our opponent a little bit here. But we are flooding out. So that might seem like a weird play, but we could win next turn potentially and get the Ooze off the battlefield. So that's kind of what I'm going for here. He's going to eat the Slitherwisp. He can grow the Ooze to a 7/7 and then trade it with the Lochmere actually. Which, looking back on it, I think that's what I do. Yeah, I do that because he's gaining the life. So at most we could have got in for a 12 if I would have sacrificed a swamp, but he was going to gain more life anyway. So we're just going to go ahead and trade it for the Ooze because we can actually get the Lochmere back here. And the Blacklance isn't bad either. So he has enough cards in his graveyard that we could prevent a future Ooze from getting any bigger and get our Lochmere back and really wrap up the game next turn, possibly. Don't quite have the mana to play it out again, but Faerie Vandal doing work. We show why we have that Faerie Vandal Sea-Dasher combo in the deck. Oh, this is great. So we'll blow him out. Blow out his questing beast. And get in Lochmere next turn, and he scoops to that. So we're at 3-1 now. Let's move on to the next one. Alright guys, I gotta apologize. I did not hit record on the game prior to this. I played a whole game. I did lose the game. I was against Mono Black. It was a lot closer than the first one. We had it down to opponent's Luris that he had put a demonic embrace on versus my Lochmere, and he beat us out just by a little bit. So I'm gonna count the loss. We're 3-2, but I promised 5 ranked games, so we're gonna play another ranked game here. But we are sitting at 3-2 right now as a record. I apologize. I've done that before. I've swore I hit record, and apparently I didn't, and I didn't have the last game to put on here, so I'm playing another ranked game, just so I can keep my promise of having 5 ranked games in the video. You can see here we got entirely too many Cunning Nightbonders. We drew all 4, which isn't great for us. I was doing the math there, if we could just kill Tamiyo, and I think she milled enough cards that we can bounce and counter Tamiyo. So we should be able to get our opponent to tap out next turn and counter something, which is fine by us. A rare game where we're not getting the lands that we really need, not really drawing anything that we would like to see. But our opponent's definitely more of a control deck, or maybe a Super Friends deck. I don't know, the top mill of his is a little scary too, so we're going to counter the Tamiyo. We don't want him to find what he's looking for. Play another Vandal. A Sea-Dasher there would have been ideal, but I guess it's not in the cards for this game. A counter spell, we need to find a counter real fast against this deck. Let's see. Opponent at 6 mana. He could play a Nissa. Yep, Nissa, who shakes the world. We should be able to kill it, I think. So what we'll do, I'll animate the land. We could play out 2 Cunning Nightbonders and kill it. But I think what I want to do here is play out a Nightbonder and a Brazen Bower, and we should be able to kill it that way. So we'll Nightbonder, Brazen Bower, and then we should be able to get through 5, 7. Well, he kills the Bower, so that makes it a little more difficult. But there you go. In return, we'll show that the second mode on Heartless Act isn't, useless. It's good in this scenario. And we'll be able to kill the Nissa that way. We don't want him to double his mana. We don't want Ugin to come down next turn. He could wipe our board. If he does, we'll get another Nightbonder down and keep the beats going. And he does with the rituals, so it can't do anything against that, unfortunately. But we will get down our next Nightbonder. And, okay, with any luck, our Nightbonder will survive. We'll get down the second one, and then we can Lochmere. That's really our only out here. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have anything too crazy. He is low on cards just like we are. He's got 3 in hand. Cycles, so he must not have much of anything right here. He plays another land. So this is pretty much for the game here. So we Nightbonder. And we do go to our turn, alright. And we do have a counter in hand too, so this should pretty much wrap it up, I hope. We could play a 4-mana Lochmere that feels really good. We can counter something big. The opponent is at 7 mana, so we could try to Ugin next turn. But if he does, we'll be prepared. Tap land for him. And nothing. Opponent has nothing. So we'll get a big Lochmere down, and this should be game. Yep, he scoops, so we go on to 4-2. Not bad. Let's wrap it up. All right, so there you go. We went 4-2 in ranked. Again, sorry I did not record that last game against Mono Black, but 2 losses against Mono Black surprises me because I've always done really well against Mono Black. But it just goes to show how draw dependent this deck can be. If you don't draw the proper cards at the right time, you can lose games. But we lucked out against Is It Spells. That's a game where realistically our opponent probably had the edge, but he was in a situation where he just didn't draw correctly. Similar to what happened to us in at least one of the Mono Black games. So overall, I'm very pleased with how the deck performed. I think it is a little bit better than a 50% win rate deck. I'd say 4-2 is pretty accurate of what the deck is. 4-2, 8-4, maybe a little closer to a 3-2 deck. I'm not sure, but it is a fun deck. I really enjoy playing it. That's why I've dedicated so much time and all these videos to Dimir Flash, because I really, really love the deck. It does great. I do great against Simic Flash. I do great against most aggro decks. I do great against most control decks. I do have periods where I lose a few games in a row, and it can get frustrating, but as you can see, we have the ability to compete and win against a lot of decks. And the other thing I want to point out about this deck before I finish the video up, none of these cards rotate. This deck is going to be ready to go for September when all the other decks rotate and Mono Black has to change a lot of things up. Basically, all the top decks will have to do some changes, make some adjustments, and we won't. We're ready to go. We're going to have a deck that we're confident in, that we understand how to play, and we have a lot of other cards that we've tested, and if we need to, we can slot them in. So let me know what you think of the deck. What do you think about the games? Leave a comment, leave me a like if you enjoyed the games, leave me a dislike if you didn't, and let me know in the comments if you like the deck, if you play something similar, if you got questions about why I do what I do. Go ahead and ask them down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for the support, everybody. I appreciate it, and I'll see you later.